What's up, guys? Welcome back. So guess who got a dash cam? We are going to be installing the Dasaita DAS-X9S. Company reached out to me to test out this product, so we're going to put it on the truck. I've been actually wanting a dash cam for a while. I was considering the Toyota OEM one, so kind of perfect timing that they reached out. Let's get it unboxed. We'll take a look at it, and the reviews on this thing are pretty solid. So I'm going to give you guys a look at how the footage is. It does come with a rear camera as well, so we'll check that out. Not sure we're going to permanently mount that just yet because the Tundra already has a ton of cameras on it, but we will at least test it out and take a look at the quality of the footage. Let's get it out of the box. Dasaita DAS-X9S. So we have the user manual. While I'm unboxing this, we'll give you a couple ideas on the specs. It shoots up to 4K in 30 frames per second. So here it is, nice and compact. I like that. If I'm not mistaken, this is the front camera, and yep, that tilts, so you could, once we get it on the windshield, we can adjust that, and we'll go over the buttons in more detail once we get it on the truck. But basically, we're just sticking this to the windshield, and then again, we'll find a good place for it. We'll get the camera adjusted at the right angle. Let's see what's in this box here. So we have some zip ties and a plastic pry tool. Here's the rear camera. Now the rear camera, I believe, is 1080, so the resolution isn't as good. Again, we're going to test this out. I'm not sure. What I may do, actually, because the Tundra has so many cameras, I may put this one on the back of our bed rack. So that way, if I have anything mounted above the bed or anything, if it's too high, I could always use this if I need to see behind the truck, and I have the Tundra camera blocked. So that's the rear camera right there. We have our 12-volt power source, which we are not going to use that. I don't like going into cigarette lighter outlets, so that does come with that, though, if you so choose. And then this is the wiring harness that I believe we're going to use. Plugs into the camera, and then we can go direct to the fuse box. So this is the one we're going to be using, so it's hardwired. All right, so that's everything that comes in the box. Let's find a good spot for it in the truck, and then we'll get it all wired up. All we have to do to mount it is remove the backing from the double-sided tape that comes with it. Obviously, you want to clean your windshield as well. We already did that with alcohol. And where we're going to put this is right in the middle behind our rear view. Now, depending on your vehicle, I checked the back of the rear view. There is I'm not sure what it is. There's some sort of sensor over here in the corner, but it's angled that way. You just want to make sure you're not going to block any kind of sensor or anything with your camera. So we've double-checked that. Mounting it right where we're going to put it is going to be perfect. So again, all we're going to do, and you want to make sure where I'm going to put it, I made sure I had enough room to unplug or plug in the rear camera and the power cord. Okay, so just make sure you have enough clearance for that. So we are going to put it right in the middle of our windshield, and we want to make sure the image is nice and level. And I'm just going to push for a second just to get that tape to stick. The other reason I wanted it right here in the middle is it's going to make running the cable and wiring very neat and very easy. So this piece right up here behind the rear view on the Tundra, if you just take the little plastic pry tool, pry down, that's going to pop right off. You can see what we did. All I did was run the power cord, and we'll do the same thing for the rear view camera when we mount it. But you can take the power cord right straight up behind the mirror into this little area, and then it shoots out. You can grab it over in this corner, okay? And then from there, all we do, you don't even really need a plastic pry tool for this. We're just gonna tuck it up above the headliner all the way across. And when we get over here, we don't even have to take the A-pillar off. You can just take the plastic pry tool they send you and beep your horn by accident. And then, you know, just kind of tuck it back up in the corner. Use the plastic pry tool just to make your life easier. So again, you don't have to remove the A-pillar. You'll be able to kind of tuck it down behind it like so. Once you have the cable over here to the corner of the A-pillar, you could actually just peel your weather stripping off. And again, just kind of tuck it all the way down inside the A-pillar. And that's going to bring us down into this area here. Now, I know I have some panels removed that you can see here. I didn't show that on camera. They're very easy to remove. If you're not sure how to do it, I do have a video on the channel that shows how to literally take this entire dash apart. And this part is in the beginning of that video. I'll link that down below. But these panels that I have removed are very simple. They basically just pop off with the exception of a couple Phillips head screws down there. So again, I'm just going to tuck this inside the A-pillar. And that's how we're going to get down into this area. So let me get the weather stripping back on in order to hold that wiring in there. All right, so there you can see our weather stripping is all back in place. The cord still has play. It's not getting pinched anywhere, but yet it's tucked up nice and neat behind everything. You literally can't see it anywhere, which obviously makes my OCD extremely happy. Now, it does have this little converter box on here, the adapter box. Thankfully, with the length of the cord, it's going to end up where this box we could just hide behind this panel here. I'll probably just zip tie it in there somewhere. And then the other end of the power cable, again, we're not going to use the 12-volt cigarette lighter option. We're going to use this option. So this is what it looks like. We have to take this up into the engine bay to get to our fuse panel. We have a yellow, a red, and a black. I'll show you, obviously the black is going to be your ground. I'll show you what the difference is between the yellow and the red. Before we go into the engine bay, because of the Tundra and the type of fuses we have, we are going to cut all three of these connections off and use our own. So red, yellow, and black, we're just going to cut these off. Now the black you don't necessarily have to, because that's just a grounding. You could keep that connector on, but it's going to make it easier to get into the engine compartment and ground it. So I'm just going to cut all three off. It's going to make our life easier going through the firewall to get into the engine bay. Now we're just going to take our wire fish that we fed through the firewall. I'll take a picture and put it on the screen if you're not sure where the firewall is. I've covered it 100 times on the channel, so don't want to just keep repeating myself, but we're just going to tape our wiring to our wire fish and pull it into the engine bay. And again, this is part of the reason we cut off those connectors. It's just going to go through the firewall grommet a heck of a lot easier with just having the end of the wires and not having to worry about pulling those connectors through. Here we are in the engine bay, all three wires, and I'm going to show you the difference between the red and the yellow. Again, obviously the black is ground. There's a grounding point right down here. That's the screw we're going to take it to, or the bolt, I should say. The red and the yellow. So basically, the yellow, you want to find a spot on your panel that always has power, whether the truck is running or not. Okay, I already found one. I'll show you where it's at. The red, we're going to want to connect to an accessory fuse. So that's, the red is only going to get power when the truck is running, or when when it's, the key would be turned or you push the button twice. The engine doesn't necessarily have to be running, but you know what I mean. You'll be getting power with that red. So that's the difference. Yellow goes to a fuse that always has power. Red goes to a fuse that only gets power when you turn the accessory on or you turn the truck on. All right, guys, so here's where we're at. All we've done off camera is the black. We just put a ring terminal on using our waterproof and weatherproof butt connectors that we use in all my videos. That's all we've done with the black. Again, I'll show you where we're going to connect it. The yellow, we have an add a fuse, and again, this is another reason we had to cut. I think I mentioned it. We had to, whether we wanted to or not, we had to cut those connections off because the Tundra uses these little, the mini blade fuses, okay? I'll put a link to all this stuff down below if you need help or if you're not sure what you're looking for. But again, the connections that came with the camera, they would not work in this truck anyway. So we just wired the yellow to an add a fuse. In the add a fuse, we have a 15 amp fuse. That's what was on the one that came with it, so I'm matching it. The red, we're going to do the same thing. You can see the weatherproof butt connectors that we use, that's already on there. I'm just going to slide the heat shrink tubing over that and heat that up and secure that down. And then I'll show you what fuse spots we need to connect to. Let me show you the fuse locations we're going to be using. So for the, now that we have the add a fuses added to our lines, the yellow wire, as I mentioned, the yellow wire coming from the camera, that's the one that has to go to a spot that there's always getting power, whether the truck is running or not. The easiest way to test this is if you come to the fuse box and you use a voltmeter, nothing special. This is actually a free voltmeter I got from Harbor Freight. The spot that I know always gets power is right here. And I'll take a picture and put it on the screen, but it's this location right in front of the 7.5, right there. Okay, that's where we're going to be putting the add a fuse that's attached to the yellow wire. So again, if I put my positive peg down in there and then take my black and put it on the grounding spot, you're going to see we will get, let me just get in there. You'll see, you can see on the voltmeter, it's shooting up to 13.4 volts. Okay, so again, the truck is off right now. That's how I know that spot is always getting power. So we're going to take our add a fuse that's on the yellow wire, and we're going to put it in that location there. Now to find a location for the red wire that only needs power when the truck is on or when you have the accessory on, you're going to do the same exact process, and I'll show you the fuse we're going to use. The location we're going to use for this is right here. Okay, this spot right in there. And again, I'll take pictures and put it on your screen. We're just going to double check and test. So if I put our positive peg in there, take the black peg, you'll see that there's no voltage whatsoever. Okay. But now if we turn the truck onto accessory, which I just did off camera, and we check the same spot, you can see we're gonna get, let me just get on the spot there. There we go. Sorry, I wasn't on the ground. I can't really see it from where I'm standing. But you can see now with the truck on accessory, there's our voltage right there. Okay, so that's the location. We're gonna wanna plug our red wire with the add a fuse. We're gonna plug that into that location there. Now the black cable with the ring terminal just attaches to the grounding point right down in here. There's multiple locations you can use for that. That's just the spot we chose. Once you connect that grounding screw, the camera should now be operational. Let's go back in the truck. We'll take a look at it. I'm going to put some footage on a SIM card, and I'll put that on the screen as well, just to give you a look at the quality. The research I've done on this thing, it actually looks pretty impressive. And then again, we will take a look at the rear camera, even though I don't think we're going to permanently mount that one just yet. Let's jump in the truck and take a look at this thing. So here's the main screen once you get everything hooked up. Basically what you're looking at is, obviously you have your forward facing camera. If you have the rear view camera plugged in, which you can see we do not, you could also have like a side square over here on the right side of the screen showing your rear view camera while you're viewing the front view as well, or you can change it to where you could just see only your rear view. You could actually cycle through them views. So basically what you're looking at is on the side over here, you do have to put in a micro SD card. I'll put a picture on your screen and show you. There's a little slot on the side of the camera. We're using a 128 gigabyte card right now. It's plenty of space in my opinion, but it's up to you. You can put a 256, a 64, whatever you want in there. You do need a micro SD card though to record the video and photo footage too. Okay, up the top you can see this is where your power comes in. That's the rear view camera connection right there, that hole right there. We don't have ours connected right now. The main power switch is up here, and then on the side we have 4 other buttons as well, which we'll go over in a second. Here on the main screen, you can see up in the top left hand corner, you can see where it says 4K and there's a red dot flashing. That means we're recording, and the 4K is our resolution. So you can change that resolution, which I'll show you in a second. The red numbers that you may or may not be able to see right now because of the glare, I can see it perfectly fine, but I don't know how it's going to show up on the GoPro. That's the length of the current video that we're shooting in. If you stop the recording, I'll stop it, and those numbers are going to turn white. That's how much time you have remaining on your SD card before it gets full and just starts looping over the, the oldest footage. And then next to that, we have our date and our time. On the right side corner over here, there's 4 or 5 different icons, which I'll show you in the settings. It says 3 minutes. You may or may not be able to see it, but it says 3 minutes right there. That's what we have our looping setting at. So this camera is taking 3-minute loops of video. That's what we have our set to. And then there's a P, there's a G, there's a microphone, and there's like a signal strength indicator right there. So let's go into the settings and I'll show you what all of those mean there. To get into settings, basically all you're going to do is the 4 buttons on the side. You're going to hit the second one down. That's the menu button. These are all the options you can change, and there's more, which we'll go into. We'll take a quick look at these. I'm not going to go into every single one. We'll cover them real fast, but we're not going to go into detail with every single one. This is the resolution, one of the most important settings. We're shooting in 4K. It's the best image you're going to get, so we're obviously going to leave that in 4K, but as you saw, you can shoot in 2K or also 1080. Next is the loop record setting. You can change that to 1-minute loop recordings, 3 or 5 minutes. I like the 3, just kind of right in the middle, personal preference. You can change the speaker volume, so the little beep that you're hearing, you can turn that off or make it louder. Next is the G sensor. That is basically if the camera senses a jolt to the vehicle, like let's say the vehicle gets hit, if it's not already recording, it will start recording and save that footage to your micro SD card. So if for whatever reason you don't have your camera on, if the camera senses a jolt to the truck or vehicle or car or whatever, that's going to automatically start recording and save it to your micro SD card. So if your rear camera's plugged in, the front and rear camera will start recording. So hopefully you can catch whatever just happened to the vehicle. All right, so that's what that G sensor is. And I believe, let's go back up there for a second. I think you can change, yep, you could actually change the sensitivity to that as well. So I have mine set at medium, but you can go off, high, medium, or low. All right, next is the screensaver. You can, I have that turned off, but if you wanted a screensaver on there, you can do that. You can change the date and time. This option is for the rear camera. When you install your rear camera, if the image is upside down for whatever reason, if that's how you installed it, you can just go into this option, flip it right side up, and you're good to go. You don't have to physically move the camera at all. You can go in and change the language. This is the boot up sound. So whenever you turn your camera on, it makes like a little jingle. I have that sound turned off. That's where you would do that. Record audio. So the clips that this is recording, you can have it record audio as well or not. I actually have my audio on. So when I go back and view footage or view any clips that I've recorded, you can hear my music playing or me talking or whatever. You can turn that off if you so choose. I have mine on. This next option is how you're going to connect to your phone and to the app. Now, I do have the app. I'm not going to cover it in this video. It's honestly pretty basic. It's a decent app. I have it. I very rarely use it, to be honest, because it doesn't really do anything that you can't do here on the camera itself. So that, again, I'm not going to cover it in detail in this video. Maybe I'll put a picture on the screen just to show you what app it is. But it is a pretty basic app. Nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't do anything mind-blowing or anything that you can't do here on the camera itself. So that's up to you if you so choose. But that's how you'd go in there, you'd click go to on and press OK, and then you'd have to go into your phone settings and connect to the camera through your phone settings in the Wi-Fi area. All right, so that's what that is. Plate number, you can enter your plate number in there. I did not do that. This next setting is one of the coolest features in my opinion. It's the parking monitoring. And when we covered the fusing, the red wire that I mentioned that we had to connect to a fuse that only gets power when the truck is running, or when the accessory is on. That's the feature you need to do that red wire for. And what that is I'll show you right now with the truck is running. So actually, I'll explain it right now and then I'll show you once we get out of the settings. Once I turn the truck off, that's going to automatically go into a time-lapse mode. It's just going to take a picture every so many seconds and give you a time lapse. You can go in there and change that to a 24-hour time lapse, so it covers the last 24 hours and then just starts recording over it. I have mine set to 48 hours, so it'll it'll time lapse the last 48 hours if the truck is parked that long. And then the last option, the parking guard, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I looked in the instructions. I don't really know what that is, but honestly, I don't really care because I like the 48-hour time-lapse option. Just so you know, that parking guard, I'm not exactly sure what that feature is. It doesn't really mention it too much in the instructions. So, all right, so we're going to leave it on the 48-hour time-lapse. And then the rest of the settings, you can change mile per hour to kilometer per hour or vice versa. Format the SD card, go back to default settings, or look at the software version. Now, going back to that parking monitoring, watch what's going to happen. So let's go back to the main screen. So we're here on the main screen. You can see it's recording, the red dot's flashing. When I turn the truck off, I'm not going to have to do anything. I'm going to turn the truck off right now and you're going to see what happens. So there you can see, you heard the beep, truck is off, and now it automatically goes into a time lapse. So even though the screen turned off, it's taking a picture every so many seconds. I can't remember the interval, but it's taking a picture every so many seconds. Okay, I personally love that feature. So make sure you hook up that red wire properly, because in my opinion, that's really cool, that it just automatically does that. And then when we start the truck back up, You'll see I don't have to touch anything. It goes back into normal mode. I just started the truck. That's why you heard the beep and the screen came back on. So that's totally hands off. The camera does that by itself. You don't have to touch anything. So it's a pretty neat little feature. All right, let's wrap the video up by showing you some clips and showing you the quality of the camera. I will say I've been using this for 2 or 3 weeks, and I definitely am impressed with the footage, especially the quality of the front-facing camera. So let's show you some images and some video of that, and we'll wrap the video up. All right, let's take a look at some clips here. So a couple things I want you to pay attention to as I'm going to show you a few variations here between the front-facing and the rear-facing camera. A couple things. The first thing is pay attention to the colors. When I was shopping around at dash cams, that's one thing I noticed, especially with cameras in this price range, kind of budget-friendly dash cams. The colors weren't always that great. They just, the hue or the tone looked a little bit off. This dash cam, I have to say, I'm very impressed with it as far as the image quality and the colors go. The blue sky looks good. The green in the trees looks awesome. The contrast with the white clouds in the sky, you know, everything looks like it should. The colors are very vibrant, and the image is a very, very high quality on the front-facing dash cam. Even when I'm going, you know, you can see in the highway clips when I'm going from shade into sunshine or vice versa, sunshine into shade, a lot of cameras, it'll take a second, like a split second, for the brightness to adjust. This dash cam stays high quality no matter what the case may be. Even in the nighttime clips you're going to see, the glare, sometimes on dash cams, that glare from headlights or street lights up above you, it is brutal. This camera does an awesome job at keeping focus and keeping the image very high quality. Now the rear camera, the clips you're going to see with that, the rear camera is not going to be quite as sharp, but we knew that going in because the rear camera is only shooting in 1080 versus the front-facing camera that shoots in 4K. With that being said, you can tell for yourself in these clips, the rear camera is still a very good quality image. At one point, you're going to see I'm driving through a state park, and there's a lady jogging back the other way, so you'll see her go back running, jogging away from the back of the truck. And if you keep watching, you'll see a deer that shoots out in front of her across the road, and it's a pretty good ways back from the truck, but yet you can still see every detail. You clearly see the deer jump, you know, go running across the road. So even though it's only shooting in 1080, it's still a very, very good quality image. So I definitely am I'm going to permanently install that rear facing camera on my bed rack. You know, for this testing, for the purpose of this testing, I just kind of temporarily attached it to the rear window. So obviously you're looking out over the bed underneath my tent and underneath my bed rack. But yeah, I mean, even though the rear is only shooting in 1080, it's still a very good image. The front facing camera, I can't say enough good things about it. So hopefully these clips here, you know, kind of give you an idea of, you know, how good this camera is in this price range. In my opinion, honestly, you just can't beat it. All right, guys, let's end with a couple nighttime clips. As you're going to see, as I already mentioned, the image quality at nighttime is still very, very good. The glare is not bad at all. You can tell with the oncoming traffic, with their headlights, the street lights up above. It's just still remains a very high quality image, and the glare is not bad whatsoever. You can still make out plenty of detail. So all around, I definitely love this camera setup. And again, as I mentioned multiple times in this video, in this price range, I just don't feel like you can beat this camera setup. So any questions on anything you saw, put them down below. As always, we'll get them addressed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.